Hello everyone, we're back. We are set up and ready to go with Mega Man Xtreme 2. Poisson, introduce yourself and your commentator and take it away.
Alright, hey guys, so I'm Poisson. I run Mega Man Xtreme 2. I run all the categories. This is a Mega Man X game that not a lot of people really know about. It came out in 2001, right before X6 dropped. For most of this commentary, I'm gonna let Tempest Mask take over.
Hello everybody, my name is Tempest Mask 1000 and I am honored to be helping out today. As you can see here, we are doing Mega Man Xtreme 2. This is the Japanese version, Rockman X2 Soul Racer, and as Poisson mentioned, this game did come out before X6, and soon enough this year it will be celebrating its 20th anniversary, so I am very excited for that momentous occasion. You guys are about to see something really cool because Poisson here is the world record holder to all of the categories on the Mega Man RTA leaderboards, so we hope you enjoy the show. And with that, Poisson, would you like to quickly show off your options to let everyone know how this is going to play out?
Oh yeah.
That's a continue
This
screen.
is not the option screen, but...
Uh-oh. That's the autosave. Okay,
Alright.
there we go.
So, the options we go with is scramble change, so you can switch between X and 0. We turn off auto charge, and we turn on rapid fire. Basically, the charge shot in this game is terrible, and we will never use it. I'll start the countdown. 3, 2, 1, go.
Let's go with text. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are doing Extreme Mode. This is essentially the true ending category to the game, and we will be collecting all upgrades and little item boosts. So here we have the intro stage, and the story of Xtreme 2 goes as follows. Mega Man X and Zero have entered Lagoo's Island in the Southern Ocean on call for duty with Iris as their navigator. Supposedly, she's getting a little bit of internship work away from the Repliforce, and Lagoo's Island is experiencing some reports of what's known as the Erasure Incident. For those who saw those motionless Reploids in the intro cutscene, those are Reploids affected by erasure. Their bodies are basically unmoving, almost hollow. It's the effect of their DNA, which act as their souls, being torn away. And right away, we have our intro boss, Skullhead, a mechanoid, which I affectionately refer to as Mega Skeletor. So chat, get your yes going if you could, please. And with that, we are going to have a very quick fight here. Essentially, you got to damage the head enough times until the head goes boom, and that was a very smooth fight. Now, he can be a little bit of trouble if you enter the fight with low health, because if he spawns a platform, it can damage you, and it would be enough to, unfortunately, cause you to lose a life there. And that has happened to me at least once or twice. With that said, though, we have beaten Skullhead, and we are now moving on, receiving a transmission from Gareth here. He is a very mysterious knight-like Reploid who claims to be what's known as a soul racer, and he destroys evil mavericks, essentially. But X and Zero kind of find him a bit shady, so he says, alright, I'll tell you what. If you want to learn a bit more, destroy this island's 8 guardians, and we'll meet up again. And those 8 guardians just so happen to be mavericks revived from X's 1 to 3. So Extreme Mode has us facing all 8 of these guys, and they're going to be very familiar faces. And yes, I do want to mention that this game is a prequel to X4, which, funny enough, is coming up next. So this game takes place after X3. Right away, we're going to the parts shop. Poisson, you wanted to explain that, so go right ahead.
Yeah, so we buy Saber +1 because that upgrades Zero's Saber, and he does the most damage in the game. Zero's Saber does 3 damage regularly, but with Saber +1 he'll do 4, and with how boss health is set at 32 pips, if you just hit bosses 8 times with your Saber Slash, they'll die. We especially need this against Wire Sponge, mainly because, if you played X2, you'll know he has an Enrage phase, In order to skip that, we hit him 5 times in this game. Wait for him to do a long enough animation to do the last 3 hits to skip his enrage.
Exactly. And right there, we just acquired our first armor part. Yes, Zero has a full set of armor capsules. Dr. Light seemingly created them for whatever reason, but hey, we'll roll with it. So this is part of the 100%. Yo, look at that right there, though. Ooh, very close there. So that, my friends, was elevator skip, and Poisson did that spectacularly. It's a very difficult, it can be very tricky to pull off, but when done just right, it can save us a few seconds right there. That was spectacular. But yes, 100% is a category that will feature us collecting 8 armor capsule parts, or at least 9 as our completion bonus. We have 2 sub-tanks to collect, and the first one was collected very early on. And then there are 8 heart containers or life-ups in total, and we also collected the first one the moment we entered Wire Sponge's stage in the same location that you may be familiar with. Here we have Wire Sponge himself. As Poisson mentioned, we want to avoid that enraged state that Sponge enters at a particular state of health. Hopefully he will be able to get that quick kill, and unfortunately he did not. This does mean that Sponge will now spew some electricity and also be a little bit invincible. But there we go. We didn't manage to die. A word of note that anytime Sponge does get into this state, if he is right by a wall, then all you need to do is just hug the wall to the side and his lightning will not hurt you. 100% guaranteed. With that, though, we have acquired our first of Zero's techniques. A thing to note about this game is that, unfortunately, X and Zero will not receive the same weapons. Whenever you defeat a boss as a particular character, they will receive that weapon in particular. Coming up next is Tunnel Rhino stage, because Wire Sponge normally has the weapon that is effective against that boss, but we will not use it because lightning, unfortunately, is not that helpful a technique. It is, however, necessary to get the next armor upgrade, which is the Zero Final through his armor parts, and this is going to be our huge technique for any Zero gameplay from here on out. Essentially, it's a ultimate technique that involves Zero getting up close and personal to the boss and then just wiping away a chunk of health. This, coupled with the energy saver part, allows us to use it twice per level with a full weapons bar, which, by the way, is completely shared between any technique that Zero uses that wastes a bit of energy. Ooh, okay, so unfortunately, Poisson's gonna have to go a little bit of the long way there because the upgrade that has these blocks that the lightning technique will break was on the other side, so it would have been a little bit more convenient to have just used that, but hey, we're doing fine, and there we go. That's the arm parts capsule. So one thing is that bosses, we sometimes like to use weaknesses, but this is all dependent mostly on, I guess you could say, the category and the character in question. I, for instance, usually run the any percent categories, and for what I do, I usually go along with the weapons chain, especially when it stuns a boss. But with Zero Final, it can really shave a lot of health, no trouble. That we're generally going to see Zero doing a lot of the heavy work when it comes to the Mavericks. We do, however, want to collect some of the weapons as X for one reason or another. Here we have some rising lava or fire. Do not worry, though, this will not insta-kill the character, and this will show up again, but most people will normally start to see it in a Tunnel Rhino stage, I do suspect. As we get up to Tunnel Rhino himself, I do want to mention that the part system is very interesting and also quite convenient here. So, when Poisson collects a special kind of health refill or weapon refill, chances are it's what's called a DNA soul. It looks kind of like a diamond and has a white circular center in it, and enemies are usually dropping it. Single clusters are 4 points. Nice Tunnel Rhino kill, by the way. Double clusters are 8 points, and triple clusters are 16 points. And whenever Poisson destroys a Maverick or a boss for the first time, that's 200. That's a lot of things to cover, or at least a lot of DNA souls to collect. Essentially, these serve as like the DNA of the Reploids that have been sort of affected, I guess you could say. And Iris does name it the DNA Soul, so that is the official name. Here we have Berkana speaking to Gareth. Berkana is the second Soul Eraser and a very rare occurrence within the Mega Man franchise, as she is a villainess for the series. She is Gareth's creator, and it is not every day that you see a female Reploid as a bad guy, so shout out to Capcom for that. I love Berkana personally. Here we have Volt Catfish coming right up. Now, this stage is going to be interesting looking because if you're familiar with X3, the aesthetic is totally that of Toxic Seahorses, but everything else is just basically Volt Catfish right there. I personally like this, though. One of the things about Xtreme 2 that sets itself apart from Xtreme 1 is that it mostly tries to do a little more original stage things, whereas Xtreme 1 was very faithful, maybe to a fault for that matter, but still pretty faithful to the original X1 and X2 aesthetic. But with that said, Xtreme 1 is a pretty alright game. Definitely not as given much attention, much like Xtreme 2, but still, both are really good speed games nonetheless, and pretty dang awesome demakes, in my honest opinion. With that, we are receiving our first armor part for X. This is the leg parts, and this is going to make him just as movement efficient as Zero. Zero comes standard built with the air dash, but now X can do so as well. And as a extra bonus for the leg parts, X can also do his X3 upwards air dash, which Poisson just demonstrated that right there as we wait for the wave, and we're just going to wait for title skip. There we go, nicely done. Now, I just call it title skip because it's a little way to avoid that wave that pushes you if you get caught. There's no way to get out of it if it does get you. But from here on out, the waves are going to be instant kill because they will be glowing yellow to signify they have electricity there. What we're going to do is be careful, especially because that right there is the next life up, and Poisson is going to get it once this cycle clears. Something to note about when you emulate this game or just aim or potentially play it legitimately, depending on your means of playing this game, you might notice that the waves appear to be disappearing, but that might not entirely be the case. So just a little precaution, but nicely done. We're now moving on to Volt Catfish. Now, Volt Catfish's weakness is the Ray Claw, the weapon given to X by Neon Tiger, and can put him in a stun lock. But we don't need that. We can use the Zero Final and wipe him out very quickly, which is good because Volt Catfish on his own, ooh, yeah, that right there is one of the things that unfortunately makes him very hard to deal with, but that was nicely done. So Volt Catfish, in my honest opinion, is probably the worst boss to deal with without any weakness or any proper means whatsoever, because that vacuum attack is very annoying and hard to get out of. But nicely done, Poisson. So we've now received his little Tri-Thunder technique for Zero, but that's another thing we will not be using because, yeah, no, we're pretty set. But here we have Blast Hornet, my favorite of the Mavericks of this game, especially due to the stage layout being one of the most original I've seen yet. So in X3, there's the air base that you may be familiar with. Here we have a bunch of spy copters, those bug-like copters from the intro stage to X3 that we will be platforming across, which is really cool. I also like this little remix. Anytime you hear a song that essentially remixes from X3, chances are it is a cover of the Saturn. Ooh, unfortunate there. Yeah, the thing about Xtreme 2's movement is that it can get a little fast, that sometimes if you're not too careful, that can happen. But hey, no problem. Just a little inconvenience because we did hit a checkpoint there. We're just going to move along. But alas. So Poisson should be able to clear a good section of the skip using X. Right here, just watch. As you can see, he's going to use the upwards air dash to skip that. It is possible to do that as Zero, but it is a little less marathon safe, but it is doable nonetheless. It's just a little bit of timing, and you do not have the upwards air dash. Here he just used Tunnel Rhino's Drill Crush to break those blocks and get to the next capsule. If this were an any percent run, you can use Overdrive Ostrich's dash technique to wipe those enemies in one fell swoop and therefore open up the path. With that in mind, do we have any donations at the moment?
Yes, we had two right off the bat. I appreciate that. We had $10 from Cookie Monster 90. It says, let's get this party started.
Heck
And
yeah.
put that towards, a couple of donation incentives. We have Zero is now winning the character bid war for the very next run, X4. So if you want to see X versus Zero in the 100% run, be sure to put your money towards. When you go to make a donate, it'll give you the option to put it towards an incentive and a poll. You could do either or both. So be sure to take advantage of that. And we had $25 donated from Robo Rob Music. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate that.
This
Awesome.
might be Tempest's favorite stage, but I hate this stage so much.
Oh man. Well, I'd be willing to hear why after we take care of Blast Hornet. So here we have Blast Hornet trying to sting us with his little needle right there. Otherwise, he's going to shoot bees at us. And this is one of the things that can be a bit of a disadvantage to using the Zero Final, because the technique goes for the first thing it can hit. And then once Zero does the slashes on the first thing, that's basically as far as he goes. If he were to hit one of the bees, that would put him close to the bees, and that is, unfortunately, can be a bit of a problem for us. But we usually try to be wary of that regardless. So as we head into Overdrive Ostrich stage, as we head into Overdrive Ostrich's stage, which is the only stage to use the Ride Chaser, I'd like to bring up the controls for the Ride Chaser in this game. So they can be a little bit slippery, but also a little bit stiff. You can attack on the Ride Chaser, but there are two ways to do so. You can hit the attack button, or you can hit up. Focus usually recommends doing up because it does allow you to move while you're doing the attack. So, whereas using the attack button doesn't necessarily allow that. So here we have a bunch of damage boosts for this portion of the stage, because all those sandstorm tornadoes are instant kill if Poisson touches even one. So we normally try to take these damage boosts and go across them no sweat. We have a couple that's going to be a little bit of tight timing here. Let's see it. There we go. Fun fact, if you do climb up, though, like hug that wall for that last one, there is a hidden health drop that I had no idea about until recently. Here we have the final Zero capsule that we'll be collecting, and then with that, he'll have this full set of armor. But yeah, all things considered, this game has what's called the character swap movement, which you may be familiar with if you've played X7 or X8. Here it's sort of called scramble change, I believe, at least in the Japanese version. But with that, we can switch between X and Zero. However, they have shared lives, so if one dies, that's a life lost. Here we have the next life up here. Yeah, it is a very good idea to just stand still for the Ride Chaser parts, unless you really feel pressured to move. But if it's like a drop like that, my advice is definitely stand still, otherwise you are probably going to fall into that pit, especially with the jumping sections. Here we have Overdrive Ostrich coming right up. He's going to use basically the same moves that we know him to do in X2. We're just going to use the simple Zero strat, though. With that said, he can be a bit jumpy, and if he does go off screen, he's going to try and just go for the little long jump right there. But yeah, though, this is Xtreme 100% usually lets us take care of these guys with little to no problem, thanks to the Zero Final combination. And that was a very nice fight right there. So as we're getting the dash technique, Poisson, I want to ask, what exactly do you not like about Blast Hornet's stage? Just out of curiosity.
Everything. The bees, the RNG mid-boss, which I'm sure the viewers saw. I had trouble getting... I got the worst pattern where the buttons were only available to be attacked like across the screen from each other. Usually the best pattern for that is when they both light up at the same time on the same side.
Right. I don't see a lot of that, but yeah, no, I get you there. I will agree that the mid-boss is, and one of the few known mid-bosses within these levels, or the game particularly, is a bit of a troublesome one. But I don't seem to mind it that much. It's perfectly understandable, though. Here we just collected X's next part the arm parts. So the neat thing about Xtreme 100% is that we can completely negate the need to revisit stages thanks to Zero's armor capsules. Zero also needs to destroy these very generic blocks, much like how it was in X1, and X has some parts for that too. But by collecting some of what Zero has, we can easily get it, no problem, in one fell swoop. So the routing is essentially very convenient thanks to Xtreme 100%, and is probably the only category of the game known to do so. It's not too terrible the need to revisit if you did anything else, but other than that, yeah. So Extreme mode, I mentioned that character swapping is present here, and X and Zero share a life. But the thing is, between X and Zero, Zero has a global weapons bar that anything he uses that consumes weapon energy will be of the same bar. Whereas anytime X uses a weapon, that's just per weapon. Another thing I want to bring out as we're fighting Flame Mammoth here, ooh, that was a very high jump, is that whenever X gets his equivalent to the armor capsule gained weapon, the Giga Crush, we do not use that, because like in X2, you have to take damage to fill up its armor, its ammo, and even when you do use it, it's a bit of a long cutscene. Zero Final 2, yes, but it's not as terrible. So, nice Flame Mammoth fight. We did want to defeat him as X because we prefer that version of the Fire Wave over what Zero does. It's a little easier to aim, especially with the upcoming Armor Capsule with Neon Tiger's stage. As I mentioned before, the Maverick, the player that, the character you play as that defeats the Maverick will receive the weapon, not both of them, so that's one thing we, again, do consider. Both X and Zero do get the fire weapon, but the thing about Zero's techniques is that whenever that either you have to trigger them in the main menu, like the Tri-Thunder, or you just use a button combination, like how Poisson triggers the Drill Crush from Tunnel Rhino. That's a down plus attack button or down plus B input while in midair. Other weapons might use that, such as Zero's version of the Fire Wave, or even the Rising if Zero were to defeat Neon Tiger, but we don't do that because we prefer the Ray Claw for X, so you will see X defeat Neon Tiger as well. And here is where we use the Fire Wave to destroy that log to get the next capsule piece. With that in mind, we still have one more after this, so we're getting the head parts right now, and it is essentially the headbutt to break blocks like in X1. But we do get the body armor at Launch Octopus's stage, and that will have our damage and give us the Giga Crush. So, you've been noticing X get these armor parts, but nothing about him changes. That's because, mostly due to Game Boy limitations, X's sprite will only change whenever he gets all 4 armor parts. Now, speaking of parts, let's quickly talk about the part system, because I was mentioning DNA souls. We want to collect DNA souls, but also keep them unspent, because in Iris's parts shop, she will make a new part available to purchase if we have a total amount of unpurchased DNA souls in our collection. So we especially want parts like Buster Plus 1 and Buster Plus 2. Buster Plus 2, for instance, is 1,000 DNA souls. So the moment we collected 1,000 DNA souls, it becomes available in the shop. Nice tiger fight, by the way. So yeah, we have a bunch of parts that we do want to collect, and one of them will be the Ultimate Buster. Now, Ultimate Buster is something that essentially makes all of X's normal shots into charged shots. Poisson mentioned that we have auto charge turned off, though. That's because the damage table here is completely it's kind of busted, a little unbalanced, if you will, but we use this to our advantage anyway, because that just means we don't have to use the charge shot as much. See, Capcom apparently made it where bosses will take as much damage to a normal shot as you would for a charge shot, whereas other enemies might make a difference for other enemies, not so much for the bosses, so we just use that to our advantage here, and this will make our Buster even more broken once we get Buster Plus 1 and Buster Plus 2. So now we're entering the... But yeah, we are going to want that Ultimate Buster part anyway, because the final boss has a phase where he will only get damaged if we have the charge shots. But yeah, we have entered Launch Octopus's stage, and one thing you might have noticed when we were in Flame Mammoth is that the music of the two are completely swapped by accident. This is completely a Japanese exclusive little programming error. The international version does fix this though, but one thing that we prefer the Japanese version over the international one is the cutscenes. You cannot skip the cutscenes, therefore it saves you at least a minute of going through all of this just to use Rockman X2 Soul Eraser over Mega Man Xtreme 2. With that said, we have collected our full set of armor. This is essentially the X2 armor with a couple of abilities that mix and match from X2, X3, and X1. So, with that, X does also have a new limitation. With the parts system, X can normally carry up to 4 parts, but when he collects his armor, that's halved by 2. So now from here on, Poisson can only give X 2 parts when we get to that point. Zero, however, can equip 3. Just a little something to keep in mind. Otherwise, we are taking down our second Utuboros, and we did so quite nicely, and now we're going to equip the Ray Claw as we're coming up to Launch Octopus himself. So just like in X1, we have this thing where the Ray Claw, in place of the Boomerang Cutter from Boomer Kawanger, will take down the tentacles of Launch Octopus. So we're going to try and get this as fast as we can. Audience, don't blink. This is one of my favorite strats of the game. So we start with that Ray Claw. He is now in the stun animation, and we can keep hitting him. Just like so. It's preferred to use jump slashes here. Ooh, unfortunately he did get out of that stun animation, but we did manage to get a quick enough kill on him that it was not that much of a problem at all. Nicely done. So that was our last Maverick, and now we are gaining access to the Fortress stages here. So we're going to have another cutscene coming right up. And as we acquire the Fish Fang right here, we do have some more time for donations, so if you got any, please go right ahead.
Oh, perfect. We had a couple more donations come in. We have $10 from This Is JC. Says, good luck, Poison. The Game Boy Color has never looked so good. And I agree, this is very crisp. We have a $20 donation from Michelle. It says, love that y'all are keeping this going, and Mega Man block already hype. Thank you for that.
Yes, hype indeed.
Yeah, and we had $10 from Baron Von Brian, I think running later.
Yep.
Tomorrow. Thanks to all the runners, commentators, hosts, and admins for this event. Mega Man for life. And with that, we actually had an incentive met. It looks like Mega Man 2 difficult mode is go. So Ratsin later today will be playing Mega Man 2 difficult Buster only. So get excited for that.
Let's go. Thank you so much for contributing to Child's Play, by the way. So, with that in mind, we are entering the first Fortress boss, which is Velgarder from X1, who you might remember usually accompanying the first Sigma phase. Velgarder is not too terrible, but we don't have the Hadouken on us to insta-kill him, so with that in mind, we're just going to make do with our usual strat. He can be a little bit difficult to deal with, depending on what kind of playthrough you're doing. I usually see a little bit of trouble with him whenever I'm doing, like, a zero mission run, which I'll explain the difference between the modes in a bit, but that was a pretty nice fight. So, it's normally within these Fortress stages that X and Zero have the ability to character swap whenever you're doing the individual missions, but in Extreme mode, we already have it, so no problem here. Coming right up is the platform skip, which Poisson will be doing. He's going to have this instant death electric field that he's going to use a bunch of damage boosts from the bats to quickly get across. First try, no sweat, absolutely wonderful. Now he's going to get up some platforms, and so here we have the second stage, and this is where an original boss by the name of Isazen Suilo shows up. Unfortunately, he is one of the most annoying things that any player can probably experience in this game. You might refer to him as the Sphinx Tank. If that does not bring back bad memories, I do not know what will. But alas, we will do just fine to defeat him as quickly as possible. For those who don't know, Isazen Suilo is a giant two-headed Sigma-faced tank that essentially takes up most of the screen, and as a result of that, he can be a huge problem for taking damage. But Poisson has this little strategy in mind that even I haven't figured out yet, but can be simple enough to catch on to once you figure it out. And it's going to cheese him quite nicely. Well, at least that is normally present with any percent runs. We do still have the 0 final, so we probably won't need to do that. With that said, what's going to happen is we want to destroy both heads, and each of them share half of the full health bar. Once you hit the bottom head, he will shoot these mortars that will come at you, and if you destroy the top head, he will continue to do so, but that was a very, very clean fight right there, thanks to 0 final. One thing that can make this a bit dangerous, though, is that platform that floats to the left. It can be connected with that 0 final, so if you do hit it, that is a wasted attack right there, which is very unfortunate, but that was a very nice fight regardless. And now we are making our next and probably final shopping trip. We are now acquiring Buster +1, Buster +2, Saber +2, and the Ultimate Buster, and we are now moving on to the 3rd stage. And this is where we're going to have a bit of a split here. So this is in an X mission and 0 mission playthrough, this is your final level. The difference is that depending on which mission you're doing, it will automatically default to the character that you chose, or well, rather the characters of the mission at the end of this section right here. But in extreme mode, it's whichever character you're playing as right now. That when you get to this point, that will determine who you're going to. And we want to pick X for Berkana. We want to fight Berkana because Gareth is a much harder boss to deal with as 0. So with that in mind, we have a little bit of dialogue here. We have a little bit more time for donations if you got any, so go right ahead. All right, well, in any case...
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah, we had one more donation. Well, shout outs to Blueberry, $10, said, I had to donate when I saw the Elemental Rainbow incentive for Bloodstain's Ritual of the Night. Even not knowing anything about the game. Streamers, thanks for streaming. Viewers, thanks for viewing. And everyone, stay hydrated. Good luck, runners.
Oh, I am most certainly staying hydrated as we go on throughout. So we just skipped what is essentially one of the cruelest parts of X's gameplay, because right there is what you absolutely need those leg parts for. We do not know if there's a way you can skip it without. I would assume not. But there's also another reason that we want to play as X here, and that's for the completion bonus. To your right is a gray panel that has false electricity, and that is our final armor capsule. This is the completion bonus. We are now about to hit 100%, and we will validate the run. Yeah, English is a little hard sometimes, even for me, a native speaker. Anyway, we have collected the Hadouken and the Shoryuken, so you can use both in this game. Unfortunately, they're not as powerful as they were in the game, but I'll explain that in the next stage. Here we have Berkana. We hate the alphabet because she likes to use it against us. She throws these orbs with A and B on them, and Poisson either wants to avoid or destroy them while continuously shooting at her. If he gets hit by an A sphere, his A button gets locked, so he can't jump for a while. If he gets hit by the B sphere, he can't shoot for a while. And depending on which of the two he gets hit with, will also turn either the floor or the wall into spikes. Now, the effects cannot cross over, so if you get hit by an A sphere but then by a B sphere, the A sphere's effects wear off, and that was a great Berkana fight. She also has a couple other attacks as well, which brings me to the point where in extreme mode, bosses have an extra attack and can also do a little bit of extra damage right there. Some other things like the Flame Mammoth fireballs that shot up, that Poisson was taking damage boosts to avoid, are instant kill, practically speaking. But that's probably the only stage change I'm aware about. But oh my goodness, it's Sigma! Of course, he was the true mastermind this whole time! No way! Okay, for real though, of course it's Sigma. It seems as though Sigma was conspiring with Berkana and Gareth to have his way and used the power of the DNA souls to acquire his envisionment of a Reploid-ruled world under his iron fist, and, well, he is indeed our true final boss. If you were to play X mission or 0 mission, the big difference is that you only have half of the Mavericks. The top row would be X's Mavericks, so Neon Tiger, Flame Mammoth, Volt Catfish, and Launch Octopus. But for Zero's 4 Mavericks and Zero Mission, that would be Wire Sponge, Blast Hornet, Overdrive Ostrich, and Tunnel Rhino. The crazy thing about this game is that Capcom decided to split the weaknesses to have a full 8 weakness chain, but did not account for the fact that one of the weapons would not be obtainable in a normal playthrough. There is, however, a way to acquire it. When you defeat an X mission or Zero mission, the game asks if you want to save your progress at the very end, and if you do, and then load that save file up, you can start the other character's playthrough with the amount of DNA souls that you collected in the first playthrough, as well as having all the weapons that you couldn't normally receive. But that is unfortunately not speedrun viable, so we do not normally use that. This is, however, important if you do want to get Xtreme mode, because you have to beat X mission and Zero mission within the same file at least once. That's how you can unlock the it, or you can collect a lot of DNA souls, and then Iris has this part in the shop that lets you instantly unlock the mode, and boss attack mode for that matter. Boss attack mode is a really fun side mode that you can get if you beat Xtreme mode for the first time. Hopefully we'll be able to show that off someday, but with that, Poisson has been going through all of these boss refights, and once we get to that, we'll move on to Sigma. And I do want to give a bit of a warning to any viewer that may be photosensitive right now. So you might have noticed a bit of flashing within this game. It's not too intensive, but when we get to the final phase of Sigma, it's going to ramp up quite a bit. So once we get to that final phase, Sigma Beast, I am going to issue that warning once again, but just a little thing to keep in mind ahead of time right now. So we have a couple more bosses. So I did mention that a couple of weaknesses are scattered throughout playthroughs. Neon Tiger's weakness is, funny enough, Tunnel Rhino's weapon, and so is that for Esau's and Sawilo, the Drill Crush, or the Tornado Fang, whereas Wire Sponge here is weak to Flame Mammoth's Fire Wave. So that's just some interesting bits to keep in mind. And also Gareth's weakness is Neon Tiger's weapon, the rise, or technique for Zero, the Rising. But yeah. With that in mind, we are now moving on to Launch Octopus, and that should be our final Maverick after that, so we're just going to do the same strat as before. Now, throughout this entire stage, Poisson did have a couple of Zero finals to use, but also had to sort of conserve. That was a very smooth kill right there. So whenever Launch Octopus exits the stun animation, with the removal of his tentacles, he can no longer do the suction tornado that also can drain your life, but it does make him a bit more annoying because he continues to jump at you and shoots missiles. We're moving into the final hallway, and we have right here Sigma, or I think it's Neo Sigma, but it's basically Sigma from X2, so that's phase 1. Coming up is after that is the second phase, which has the flashing that I was forewarning you about. But Sigma here is pretty dang weak to Zero's air slash dash. So basically, Poisson wants to do an air dash and then Saber Strike. And now we are moving on to our final phase, Sigma Beast, which is a completely original design and supposedly features some design cues from an unused Lion Reploid companion that was supposed to accompany Gareth right here. So now we want to use Ultimate Buster because the charge shots, if you want to damage him as X, you got to use charge shots. Otherwise, it's fair game for Zero. So we just want to damage the body as many times as we can until Sigma is exposed, and then we do damage to him. Time will be coming up on the final hit, by the way, so get ready on that. We are now moving on to the second part of this phase where Sigma will eventually start to change colors. If he turns blue, that will be X, who can only damage him, and then if he turns red, then that will be Zero. And he does have some unique attacks as well. We are coming up on time very soon. This should be very, very soon. This has been an awesome run, no doubt. And time!
Alright. A flat 37.
Heck yes. And that, my friends, is Mega Man Xtreme 2 for the Game Boy Color. We have defeated Sigma. All of the DNA souls will now return to their respective Reploid bodies. Probably not the evil ones. and all in the world of 21XX is saved again.
Yeah, so if we do have time, I do want to show off the zero portion that we skipped. It'll take like maybe a minute or two, if that's fine.
Yeah. We can fit that in,
Alrighty.
so go right ahead.
Sweet. So this is a bit of a special treat. You're essentially gonna be seeing the one boss that we do not usually fight in the third fortress stage right here. So this is Zero's level. Now, Poisson jumped all the way past the point where we have the dialogue conversation. Normally, if you the funny thing about this stage is that whenever you enter for the first time, if you do get a game over, you got to go all the way back to that little section where you can still swap between X and Zero, and the conversation will happen again between you, Berkana, and Gareth. But the little dialogue that happens when you warp to the next section will not happen after the first time for whatever reason. It's a little silly, but hey. Also, Zero and Iris have a little small conversation that shows the actual correct colors for Iris. Whenever you saw Iris within that little front-facing shot, that's actually just incorrect, supposedly. But is also sort of reminiscent to her X4 design, I suppose. Iris is different Iris has a bit of a different design in this game, which I personally like. Anyway, we have Gareth right here, so we're going to show you how the fight goes. Gareth is the more annoying fight because he likes to counter and throw spears, but we like to throw them back at him. So how it works is you can only damage Gareth whenever he's attacking you or whenever he's vulnerable or maybe even jumping. How we do so is we saber slash the spears back at him, but we can also hit him when he is otherwise vulnerable, and that's... Oh, this is pretty good.
Okay.
Yes! Holy heck.
So this fight wasn't as bad as it can be, but the reason why no one really runs this category of the game, Zero Mission, is because Gareth is pure RNG. There are some runs when he will just 3 times in a row just jump up into the air and you can't hit him ever, and you'll lose a minute on your run.
Is definitely one of the things that unfortunately caused my run to go over estimate a cursorial. But here's the funny part. My PB for a Zero Mission any percent is much faster than my any percent X mission. So here's hoping I will fix that soon enough. But with that in mind, that's just about everything we have to show off. Poisson, do you have anything you'd like to say right now?
Anyone that's looking to run this game, just join the Mega Man RTA subreddit. We're down in the handhelds channel. If you ever need any help, we're here to help you.
I would also be absolutely glad to send a link to the Mega Man X speedrunning community Discord. You can also catch us there. We do have we are just a handful of runners, so we are absolutely looking for more people to run this game if they are ever so interested in. We do have a more recent runner among our ranks, Young Zorn. Shout out to them. But also shout outs to Focus Sight, Phazon Knight, all friendly faces among our little group of guys who, or people who simply play this awesome game. This game was near and dear to my heart, so it had to be my debut speedrun game, and I couldn't be any happier for that. If you want to catch Poisson, he does have a Twitch, Poisson. You usually stream whenever you feel like it, though, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, definitely give this guy a follow if you want to catch whenever he does go live. Or you can also go ahead and check out the VODs for some of his runs, which I studied up on to help learn this game and stuff. If you want to catch me, I am Tempest Mask 1000. I do have a Twitter. I am at SteveVortexVA, where I may post what I might be doing for streams or speedruns and stuff there. I also have a YouTube channel, Tempest Mask 1000. I sometimes post there. Otherwise, thank you so much to magFAST for having Poisson and I on. Poisson will also be running this category at Insta Speedathon 2021 next month, so go ahead and catch that. If you want to see me run Mega Man X mission or Zero mission, I will be doing that at UKSG Winter 2021. So we are trying to bring this game to some more marathons throughout this year, especially because this game is turning 20, and I want to do the best I can for it. So again, thank you so much to the community. Thank you so much to the runners. Thank you all for donating to Child's Play. Coming up next is JC with X4, which, funny enough, is chronologically next. Yeah, I think that's all we have to say. So until next time, ciao, amici.
Cool. Keep streaming for a second, Poisson. Tempest, if you want to put a link to that Discord in our Discord, one of the chat mods can post it along with Poisson's Twitch. Yeah, and up next we do have X4 with JC, and real quick during the intermission, the character bid war for X4 is neck and neck. X is winning by $5, so if you want to see Zero or if you want to see X, that'll be a good time to get some last minute donations in, which we did get one more from Old Man Sunshine 20. Is this $25, all going towards Child's Play charity. So thank you so much everyone for your donations. We're off to a great start. Good first run. Good job, Poisson. And we'll be back with X4 after this intermission.